What's up guys, Mitch from the DIYRecordingStudio.com, and this week we've got the SDC84 build video part 1. It's the snare mic edition of the SDC84 from Mic Parts. It's an excellent sounding microphone. It is basically their version of the KM84, but remade and repurposed to be placed on high SPL sound sources like snare drums, and you can use it on other things too. That's enough from me, let's get into the build. So this is the build guide for the SDC from micparts.com. And if you haven't followed along with a build video on this channel before, it's been a little while, welcome back. And basically, we've reviewed this microphone a bunch on the channel, and it's an excellent sounding drum mic. And if it's your first DIY build, there's a few things that you might want to make sure you have ready. Things like a good soldering iron. You'll definitely need some basic tools like wire strippers, and some good cutting tools, some good clippers. You can hold the circuit boards and components with something like a helping hand, but today I'm just going to be using the putty because it's such a small circuit board and I don't want to scratch it with the alligator clips that are on the helping hand. And in the box, you'll get stuff like the shock mount mic clip for the SDC84, and you'll have the circuit board and the mic capsule and all the components that you'll need for the build. And what I do first is just take all the components out of the bags and start to sort them by relevance. So I'll put all the resistors aside together, the diodes, the electrolytic capacitors, and the film and ceramic capacitors, and put them off to the side, but separated into each of their own kind of designated areas. In the snare mic kit, which we're doing here, this is the high SPL snare mic version of the SDC84. This one has a T14 transformer winding, special transformer in there, the HC capsule, and then a special mica capacitor and film capacitor that are a little bit different from the standard SDC84. The SDC84 is made for basically recording any, sort of softer sources, things like acoustic guitars or what have you. The snare mic kit is, obviously for snare, but can also be used for louder sound sources. We've been using it on not just snare drum, but also overhead duties sometimes. It can be used on guitar cabs and bass cabs as well. Anything that's high SPL or sound pressure level. You'll also want to make sure that you have some thinner solder and that your soldering iron has a small tip. You don't want to have those big chunky soldering tips that you find electricians using. You want a PCB soldering tip, one that's finer like my one that you'll see in a minute. And some smaller, thinner solder will also help, not put too much solder on the PCB as you're soldering components in, and it'll keep things nice and neat. Just make sure that all of your components are shown in the book and that you aren't missing any. So make sure you're not missing any resistors or capacitors or any of that sort of stuff. The JFET transistor that comes with the SDC84s, they are biased with some resistors, and they're hand-picked. So they're tested and picked together, and you don't want to mix up one resistor with one transistor. So keep those separate. Keep the JFET and the hand-picked bias resistor separate because they need to stay together. If you've bought multiple kits of this mic, you don't want to mix them up. And if your JFET is packed in a bag with 2 bias resistors, you need to use the one whose value is handwritten on the slip of the paper in the bag. You don't want to mix that up either. And just double check that you have the right transformer. If you're doing the snare mic, you need the T14. If you're doing the SDC84, you need the 6.5:1 transformer. Now, the first thing you need to do is prepare components. So first, you want to clean your JFET leads and the 2 terminals in which it's going to connect with some flux or alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol is what we use here. And just make sure the PCB is clean. If there's any fiberglass loose, you'll see here that I actually sand down some of the, rougher edges of the PCB, and that'll help us actually insert the PCB cleanly into the microphone chassis later on. And then I'll wipe it with isopropyl alcohol and clean it all up and make sure it's good to go. The next thing you want to do is bend lead 3 of the JFET sideways at a 90-degree angle to its original direction. So you basically just want to use like a pair of needle nose pliers to do this. And it's the third leg. So if you're looking at the JFET transistor and you can see the writing on it, the flat side, the leg on the right is lead 3. That's the one you want to bend. You also want to prep your diodes, and what we need to do there is bend the top leg, the cathode, which is where the black stripe is. And I just use a small screwdriver to bend the leads over on this one. And same as with the 1G resistors that are pictured in the book, you can bend them over and then use your needle nose pliers to then bend the leg in a 90-degree kind of fashion as well. You want that bend to be as close to the body of the resistor as you can, so that it won't short circuit against the mic body as it's sitting in the PCB later on. Now, the next thing to do is to install all the resistors. Now, what you'll see here is that I use putty or blue tack to hold a small PCB like this in place. It's just a bit easier, and I won't risk damaging it in something like a holding hand that has alligator clips that can scratch away parts of the PCB sometimes. It's also sometimes easy to use putty to just hold things in place. It's a bit easier to maneuver things. It's just an old hack that I do. But if you're using any alligator clips or anything else to hold parts of the PCB, just remember the really thin edges where the transformer is going to be inserted later on. The PCB itself is very weak there and you could snap the board. So just be careful of that. If your board has been cleaned earlier, you should be ready to place in all your resistors. So all we have to do is put in the resistors at R3 to R10 and just make sure that you put in the right bias resistor at R3. None of the resistors are polarized, so you can put them in any orientation, but it's advised that you put them in the board in a way that you can actually see their value. So the value shows upwards, just in case you need to refer back to the manual and check that you've put the right resistor in the right place in case you make a mistake. So you could go to say like R7 and see that it is a 10k ohms resistor. Once you've put all your resistors in the board, you can solder them in place. And then once they're neatly soldered, it's always good to turn over the board, make sure some of the resistors haven't like slipped out of the board and are sitting a bit too raised. Sometimes as you solder them, they can come loose. So just make sure that they're orientated correctly in the board, and then you can trim the leads. Once you've done the resistors, then you need to place the vertical diode at D1, and just remember to make sure the cathode end is upwards and the body of the diode will go into the board. The lead coming from the cathode goes into the pad, spelled CATH or cath or cathode. Just make sure that you've got this orientation correct. Once that's soldered in, you can trim both the leads. Then you need to insert some solder terminals into each of the non-plated holes near R1 and R2. Be careful here because you need to trim the terminal pins below the PCB underneath it, leaving a length of 4 millimeters, enough so you can solder a component to later. Don't use your best cutters because the terminal pin can damage the blades. Most of my cutters are actually due to be thrown out, so I'm just using whatever cutters I have. But if you have a fresh pair of cutters, these thicker terminals can like ruin your blades. So if you've got like maybe a heavy duty pair of cutters, maybe use those. And then on this section of the build, I'm pretty sure I cut at least one of these terminals a little bit too short. It's not the end of the world if you make this mistake. You can still solder stuff to it later, but it is advisable to avoid this, obviously. I'm going to show you how I fix it later on. Once you've soldered the terminals, then we need to install all the non-polarized capacitors. So that's the red Weimer capacitors and ceramic capacitors that we have in the bag, not the electrolytics at this point. First, you can start with the ceramic capacitor at C12, the little blue one. Then you can start with the smaller Weimer capacitors at C6 and C10. Now, what I do with the blue capacitors, they got long legs, so you just solder them in like you do your resistors or your diodes. You bend the legs and then basically solder the legs in place and then snip them. So what I do with Weimer capacitors, they have really short legs on them, and if you bend them, you can snap them off. They're a bit tricky, so you can either tape them in place, which I find actually ends up with them being a bit crooked or coming off the board a little bit. So what I do is I hold the Weimer capacitor in place, and then I turn the board over and put a dollop of solder on just one of the legs to hold it in place on the pad. And then I'll check their orientation, make sure that they're, in the board correctly, and then I'll solder the other leg, and then I'll go back to the original leg and then re-solder that with a bit of fresh solder, and it'll just melt in. Even if your dollop at the beginning, that first dollop of solder on the leg to hold it in place is a bit messy, when we add a little bit of fresh solder later on, it'll just kind of flow into place and it'll be fine. It's an easier way to get the Weimer capacitors to sit on the board really flush. And on this circuit board, you want your components to be packed nice and neat and nice and tight, because when we go to install the PCB later on, everything has to be in place and nice and neat. If your capacitors aren't straight, you can just heat one of the terminal legs and move the capacitor and wiggle it so it goes straight on the board, but just be careful not to overheat it or anything while you're doing it. Then we have to locate the output capacitor for C4. This will be different depending on whether you're doing the SDC84 or the Snare mic. And then we just solder it in the same way as we did the previous capacitor. Solder one leg, check that the height of the C4 is, right, and then solder the remaining lead. And then you can trim all your capacitors, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Now it's time to move on to the electrolytic capacitors. When you're inserting electrolytic capacitors, these are actually polarized. So what you want to do is look at the body of the capacitor, and the black line on these capacitors is the negative leg and the longer leg is the positive. That positive leg has to go into the pad marked as a plus sign because that's the positive leg, obviously. The dark stripe on all the three electrolytics must face the transformer cutout. So that's an easy way to know that you've got it right. So where the transformer cutout is, those dark strips, the negative side of the electrolytic capacitor will look that way. Once each of these electrolytics are in place, solder one leg like we did on the Weimer capacitors. Just make sure that the capacitors are down on the body of the PCB, not hanging too high off the board, then solder the other legs. Then you have one more electrolytic to locate. It's different once again for the SDC84. Make sure you install the longer lead at the pad marked plus, so you get the orientation correct as well. And then if it's all good to go, you can solder in the second leg, and then you can trim all the legs off your electrolytic capacitors. Then it's time to install the high impedance components for the board. First, we're going to start with the JFET at T3. What you want to do is look at the silkscreen PCB, and there's like a semicircle there. So the flat side of that semicircle on the PCB matches up with the flat side of the JFET, which is where the writing on the JFET is. The JFET lead 3 that we bent earlier should not touch the surface of the PCB that we installed earlier. You want to bend lead 3 of the JFET partway around the terminal at R2, and then trim off the excess from lead 3 as shown in the booklet. Then what you want to do is solder leads 1 and 2 of the JFET below the PCB. When you're soldering JFETs, you want to be careful not to hold your iron there for too long and overheat the JFET. So you want to make sure that your soldering iron is nice and hot. Make sure you clean your tip, and then pre-tin the tip, and then apply that solder to the legs, and make sure that you solder these joints quickly, as we said, to not overheat the JFET. So I hope you found part 1 of this build series helpful. Remember, if you have any questions, you can hit me up in the comment sections down below. You can also reach out to me via my email, mitch@thediyrecordingstudio.com. And you can also hit me up on Instagram. Sometimes it's a bit easier to contact me over there. You can find me at DIY Recording Studio. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up as well. I'm Mitch from the DIYrecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.